Hey guys, in this video we are going to be addressing some basic setup principles for our tambourine and triangle playing. So everything we're going to talk about today is sort of the pregame. This is getting ourselves into the best possible position from which to play these two core percussion accessory instruments. Okay, so the first thing to address is stance and posture. Stance is relatively straightforward. We're talking about feet shoulder width apart, and the weight of the body shifted a little bit more towards the balls rather than the heels of the feet. Posture, a little bit more involved. So posture is really going to mean vertical alignment. Let me demonstrate this. We want to focus on the head being directly over the shoulders, being directly over the hips, being directly over our ankles. And in doing this, we also want to make sure that our shoulders are kept down and back. Most of the time, our bodies tend to sort of fall on themselves, right? We tend to hunch over a little bit, whether we're sitting, standing, walking, doing anything. Our posture tends to collapse unless we're really trying to be deliberate about vertical alignment. So once we have that great stance and that great posture, now we're ready to address the instruments. For me, I started as a snare drummer in 6th grade. So everything that I do sort of goes back to that basic default position. So my snare drum approach eventually became my 2-mallet approach, eventually became my 4-mallet approach, eventually became my timpani approach, and as much as I can, I draw all of that into how I approach tambourine and how I approach triangle. What's that going to look like? Well, keep it really, really simple. Use the same approach. If I hinge up from my elbows without doing anything to my shoulders and without kicking my elbows out unnecessarily so, I'm pretty much already in a good position. More specifically, here's what you should aim for. So I like to think about kind of a strike zone, okay? And the strike zone is basically the chest area to the upper stomach area. The tambourine can more or less be held in that area for most of the standard playing that we're going to do, with the exception, of course, of our hand-to-knee playing. The positioning of the tambourine itself will be held at a 45-degree angle. This is what we're going to do all of our rhythmic playing from. And we hold it at this angle so that we don't get a lot of residual ring from the jingles after they're activated. From this position, though, we can easily shift into a shake roll position and getting that tambourine vertical to execute our shake roll, and then back into our default 45-degree angle position. The striking hand, whether that's your right hand or your left hand, and guess what? It doesn't matter. Just choose one and go with it. Same deal. We've hinged up from the elbow. We're forming a bird beak formation here. We're bringing that hovering over the head of the tambourine. You're going to do a little bit of exploration in terms of your beating spot. You're going to recognize that the tambourine is kind of a combo instrument, right? So it's a membranophone, which means that it has a drum head on it, but it's also an idiophone because it has these jingles. So the sound is actually a combination of those two. We get a little bit of head sound and some jingle sound. So explore your tambourine in terms of beating spot. Depending on what you're going after, that will range from dead center all the way out to the edge. That depends on the playing situation, that depends on the dynamics, that depends on the quality of sound that you're going after, but spend some time exploring this. Notice that I haven't done anything to my shoulders. They haven't crept up. I don't have any tension in my neck or my back. If we're really going for what is most ergonomically sound, keep everything right here in the strike zone. When you do have to go down to do some hand-to-knee playing, we're just going to drop this a little bit, right? We're not going to put it down on the floor. We're not going to do anything crazy. If you notice, in this hand-to-knee positioning, I really haven't done much with my shoulders. I've just hinged down from the elbow in the same way I hinged up when I was getting to my default position. Okay, triangle. Well, man, this has to be incredibly different, right? No, it doesn't. So, same rules apply. So, basic snare drum approach, I'm hinging up from the elbows. Guess what we're going to do with triangle? I'm going to hinge up from the elbows. So already, without trying, I'm pretty much in a good playing position. Okay, we have to tweak things just a little bit because we are holding this awkward piece of metal. Think about what you just did with the tambourine. Try to keep this pretty consistent with that, and try to keep both pretty consistent with what you do in other areas of your percussion playing. What I'm doing here is I'm actually holding the triangle at a 45-degree angle away from my body. What I'm not doing is holding it up here. Why? Well, I'm sure you can guess, for all the reasons that I just explained. What does it do? It puts a lot of tension and stress into the shoulder. It takes our vertical alignment potentially out of whack. It does something that we don't necessarily need to do. That said, what do we do with the rest of the build? Well, the beating hand, the striking hand, the hand that holds the beater, of course, has to come over and get into the vicinity of the triangle. So I'm holding the triangle beater pretty much in the exact same way that I'm holding my snare drum stick. Yes, it's a little bit thinner, but the approach is still pretty much the same. By keeping the triangle down here and having it pointed away from me at a 45-degree angle, this allows for me to approach striking the triangle in exactly the same way as I would approach striking a snare drum or a keyboard instrument. So everything in this strike zone, just as we did with the tambourine, the grip doesn't have to change on the triangle beater from how we hold a snare drum stick, and the stroke itself doesn't have to change whether we're playing rhythmically on the bottom bar of the triangle or whether we're rolling in the bottom corner. The stroke itself doesn't change. Okay, and last thing, I'm just going to do a little bit of selfish plug here. All of these thoughts and ideas can be found in this lovely new book, Percussion Accessories Volume 1. We'll get a little close-up on that. It's written by a guy named Todd Meehan here, and it's produced by Liquid Drum down here. And what the book includes is 97 pages of all of this stuff that I talked about and more. So we talk about basic setup. We talk about basic approach. We talk about some things to do before you ever start playing. And then we get into exercises and etudes that kind of work all of this stuff into a performance context. Thanks, you guys. Appreciate taking the time to watch this video, and also an enormous thank you to Black Swamp Percussion. Such great craftsmanship and such a great company that we have in the percussion world. Many thanks to them, and many thanks to all of you for your time.